Compliments of the season, everyone, and welcome to the year 2023. This is Political Paradigm, and I am Terry Ikumi. We are officially in an election year, and with less than 2 months to the 2023 elections, you can rest assured that conversations on issues that will shape the elections will be intensified to ensure that the right candidates are voted in based on antecedents and tenable plans. This will not in any way be restricted to the office of the president, however, but the governors, National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly members as well. So go pick up your PVC and stop allowing uninformed voters choose your political leaders. Now, as we anticipate the conversations in the last days to the 2023 general elections, let's look back at what we did and what was said in 2022 on Political Paradigm. One of them is women participation in politics.
My campaign was based on competency. Listen, in 2015, the APC said that they were not giving us any principal office position because we do not have a ranking member as at that time.
That's the Southeast?
Yes, Southeast. Then in 2019, I returned, 4th-time member. As I believe that maybe they've forgotten the reason they gave in 2015. And I said to myself, you cannot neglect 2 constituencies, the women and then the Southeast. And of course, a ranking member. And then I put up to contest for the speakership. But then I was telling the party, you must revisit the zoning. Apart from the competency angle, I was saying that the party must revisit the zoning. And that was why I said that Mr. Speaker should step aside and advise the party as a leader that he was our leader. And as a leader of the parliament, of the house at that time, not just leader of majority, but the leader of the house. And from APC, that there are certain times people pay sacrifice because of the truth. And so that he should advise the party to revisit the zoning, that Southeast shouldn't be cut off or neglected at that point. And so I pushed and I pushed and I pushed until few days to the inauguration. They called me and said, listen, we have taken the decision because the president said that the speaker, the Right Honorable Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, and then the Senate President had paid their dues, and that they were supposed to be in 2015 in the 8th Assembly, yes. And they were denied. So that he has said that they should, for him, be promoted to have what originally was supposed to be theirs. And if you're a human being and you hear the decision and why they took decision, yes, it may not be politically correct for you, but you should also listen to the word of wisdom and the words of elders. And so that was why I had to step down.
Well, there are a lot of both men and women that have run that have had, bad results. So it's not about, women having low numbers. It's about running a campaign, and they did their best. And at the end of the day, Nigerians will pick who they want to pick. And this is I'm in it. Let us engage widely. Let us, when the time comes, campaign, and let us test the will of the people. Let us listen to them for once. There's a global shift everywhere in the world. Everybody understands that. Not including women in the political story is you're destined. It's almost like you're destined. We're trying to. I'm not going to say. I will not even say that we're almost giving ourselves no room to grow.
You had told my colleague that you were tagged unfit to run in 2019 because you were single.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that was the President Commissioner for Information, Kingsley Fanwo. And he just said it on air that I was unfit because I was a Christian and my district is Muslim dominated. Therefore, and also because I was single, I had an improper family. These are the words he used. She has an improper family and therefore she cannot lead. And again, these are the things I would say that women face. The attacks on any woman who puts herself forward to aspire to contest an elective position, she gets caught bit by bit. She gets castigated from her making, from who she is, to whether she's single or not. That's the side. Even if she's married, who is she married to? Like the moment I got married, my husband is from Delta State. Then there were these attacks that, okay, I got married to a Delta man, I should go contest in Delta State, ignoring the fact that the Nigerian Constitution allows me to choose whether either to contest in my state or my husband's state. So a lot of all these attacks come, and not every woman has the courage to go through these sides.
How many political parties have key officials being women? And it is really at the level of the political parties that a lot of the determinations of who is a candidate and who is not, are made. So the women just look at it and they see women who have gone ahead of them, and how the political system has not in any way provided an equal playing field. And so they feel like it's not worth it. One of the young women who graduated from our School of Politics, Policy and Governance, she was an aspirant in one of the political parties. And what she went through was unbelievable, but guess what? She's not deterred, because she is saying, I'm going to do it again because I now have the tools with which to engage the system. So we do need to have more women, understand that this system has a configuration that hinders them, and that it would take a lot of coalition of women really paying attention to women in politics in order to make an incursion into the political space.
More coalition of women paying attention to women in politics to make incursion. Dr. Obi Ezekwesili has passed through various levels of governance and development locally and internationally. So those words come from a place of experience and deep research. Moving on, I spoke with a number of presidential aspirants and candidates, as well as the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party and the presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, just before he left the PDP for the NNPP. Take a listen. How do we address this issue of monetization of our politics, right from the primaries to the general elections? Because it seems to still be an issue many years in.
I think that's a fundamental point. Therein lies the crux of the matter. The only way to address it, I think, is through a variety of means. First and foremost, I think you require an enlightened citizenry that does not just have information about politics, but that has knowledge. Knowledge, because information is different from knowledge. You get information, then you become knowledgeable, and you become analytical. And from there, you then accumulate wisdom. So the citizens themselves, who are responsible for voting people into office, need to understand what is their long-term strategic interest, both for themselves, their children, and their children's children. And to just suck money out of that, knowing fully that whatever money they receive during a convention, or the 10,000 naira that they get in order to cast their hard-earned vote, is very transient. What is more important is what kind of developmental projects shall we do or implement in order to improve the quality of life of our citizens. That's number one. Number two is to ensure that we're able to come up with legislation which is enforceable, to make the process almost incorruptible.
Education must be made free. Free. And every child must be a child of Nigeria, irrespective of background and religion. First and foremost, the 14.5 million out of school children in Nigeria, I will first of all adopt them as my children and send them back to school. That I will do. If I have to sacrifice another thing. That's one policy that Rocha started. I started what we call youth must work. You must work. Roaming around the street is not allowed. There must be something God has given you as a talent. Give it to us. Because you are making God look like a liar that he created you without a purpose. So give it to us and we shall help you to enhance it. Youth Must Work took place in Imo State. The assaults engaged 25,000 youths. This country can afford it. Community government. I'm not going to stop my government at federal, state, and local government. I would take it to the community. Here I would redefine democracy as the government of the people, by the people, for the people, and with the people, giving traditional rulers a role to play. Because if we can get it right at the community level, the nation will be stronger.
The way to cut down the cost of governance is to look at those bogies that we call democratic institutions in our system. For instance, I want to change the constitution. One of the things we should target in changing the constitution of Nigeria, creating a new one, is to get rid of bicameral legislative system. We do not need the Senate and the House of Rep doing nothing. This is just waste of money. And that kind of funding that goes to them can be invested in education, in infrastructure, and all those areas where we need immediate investment. And I talk about this frequently, and it's now become something that is frequently talked about. South Korea is doing well. They don't have a bicameral legislative system. Even Senegal, some few years ago, got rid of their own. Our own is like the retirement home of former governors. They would have stolen in their state, stolen, and then they now come to the Senate. Some of them will be in the Senate while they are undergoing trial for corruption.
Insecurity in Nigeria, there are numerous approaches to contain it. I have spoken in numerous fora, and to say that there are peculiar ways of getting it done. And the way it is today, the present structures of your armed forces, of your Joint Intelligence Bureau of Nigeria, the way you have, the paramilitary you have established, cannot capture the scope of the wide front of the threats facing Nigeria, and that is clear. You have to sit down and look at Nigeria from north to south, from all the 6 zones of Nigeria, and understand that from your waters to the northern north, you understand that there are some special roles that must be seen to be governing Nigeria in providing effective security. That's one secret we have. From your river Niger to river Benue, from the roles and expected of you to do concerning security, from determining restructuring your ministries, including Ministry of Water Resources, leaving the ministerial status to now to come under security in terms of control of what is called movement security control in Nigeria, something new, in bringing technological support to the armed forces and to the new forces we intend to create. There are new forces that will man our shallow waters. There are additional roles for our Navy. There are additional roles for our military. There are additional roles away from police and from the military on the land. There are also special roles in your forestry, mountains, aerial view security, and your borders. There are technological deployment, working with physical in terms of your borders to the hinterland. We, people have forgotten, created the 6 zones of Nigeria. And people don't know why. And are not utilizing the reasons why we created the 6 zones.
We must own our country so that we can believe in it. If you tell a young man, go and be a farmer, he'll look at you twice and say, you want me to go and do what? Break my back? But the farming we know in Nigeria is sustenance farming. We farm what we have and we cannot sell it, we eat it. Most other farming nations are cash crop farmers. We farm, we sell, we take the money and we can eat whatever we want. The Nigerian leadership has not really put that made in Nigeria label on anything. Even localizing is poor. The infrastructure, of moving goods from where it's produced to the market is terrible. The roads are bad. There's no cold chain. By the time you get something to market, 90% of what you've taken to market has rotten, is perishable, so it's dead. Price of onions, tomatoes, depending on what the weather's like, is going to change. We haven't really put the structures. And having worked with agriculturalists around the world, from South Africa to the Netherlands, I also understood that if you do not have good roads, if you don't have the cold chain, if you don't have storage facilities, if you don't have a pride in labeling your product, and that label tells you who you are, you're not going anywhere. So a leadership from a person like me is one way I delegate to technocrats. People, you can't do everything. So you must find people who have like minds, young people who also understand what I'm trying to portray, that have been outside, that can encourage this kind of new Nigeria.
In 4 years,
Yes.
what significant changes could possibly happen in the country that could prompt a re-election?
Before you get to 4 years, in the first month, stop this killing and start the healing. Stop the stealing and start the keeping. Stop the slide and start the climb. That is in the first month. And in 4 years, you would see huge farmlands in the north, expansive roads going all over, industries in Kano and Kaduna, manufacturing, huge international manufacturing outfits, refineries all over southern Nigeria, more bridges across the Niger, universities that have not been on strike for 4 years, a stable naira. Armed robbery would be a thing of the past. A community to be attacked at night and tens of the whole of them annihilated would be history. Kidnapping on federal network. Make a phone call on our GSM? No. We'll fish you out wherever you are. Nigerian armed forces will serve justice on you. We'll continue to do that until it stops. Corruption, a highly placed individual, steal our billions? No, I don't think so. Racketeering in subsidy? I don't think so. Foreign exchange scam? Definitely not. Gatekeepers around the villa? Money launderers around the villa? Influence peddlers around the villa? I assure you, none. We don't have hangers on that don't have jobs, like it happened in the past. No way, it won't happen.
I think I was one of the most investigated person in this country. The issue of houses, I will tell you. First and foremost, 1999 to 2003. When I came 99, we had pile of debt. Before I left 2003, Kano has 0. 99, debt, hundreds of millions borrowed after I left the government in 8 years. By 2015, 0, we paid them. In fact, some of them we made arrangement for our commissioners to go and exit because we had to take trenches, we stopped it. We created 3 cities in Kano, Konkosia, Amana, and Bandrao. In addition to Zawachiki and other Daladina CD, these are estates that we built when I was during my first term. Now, on this one now, we spent 30 billion naira to build those 3 cities. And throughout my 8 years, I did not borrow 1 kobo. It's government money, 100%. We used to build those cities. Now, part of what we used to build those 3 cities was 4.1 billion naira from pension. Pensioners, we borrowed the money, not the state government, but parastatals. Some collected the money, they built a house and so on. And the agreement that after selling the house, they will give them their money with profit. If they don't sell the houses, Then they give them houses at construction cost.
Now, political conversations were expanded to spokespersons of the 4 presidential frontrunners. On Political Paradigm, they had the opportunity to sell their candidates. Here are a few of the things they said in that regard.
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has his own manifesto too. He has his own ideas. How he ran Lagos, how people can see the record of Lagos. And that is more attributable to him because that is also an APC government. So you cannot take a part of APC and reject another part of APC. Or quote only one part of APC and reject the other part of APC. The APC record in Lagos that Asiwaju has championed over the years is a blueprint. I'm not saying he's governor of Lagos State, but he has been his blueprints. I'll give one example of his blueprints. The blueprint on the rail line, he drew up 7 rail lines before he left. They call it blue, green, rail line, red, and all that he drew, and all the corridors where those rail lines will pass. That template is what all governors of Lagos State are just coming to improve upon and to implement. As I speak with you, one of the rail lines is about to start. They have finished, manufacturing one particular rail line along one corridor of Lagos State. So it is his blueprint for development of Lagos State. So as a human being, Asiwaju has his own fresh ideas. He's bringing into government in areas where we have done well. He wants to improve also on those areas. In areas where we are still work in progress and we are facing challenges, he has fresh ideas altogether to bring because government is a continuum. No government will finish all the work it met on all the challenges it met on the ground. No government in the world. And the issues are about the economy. The issues about what we will do to raise non-oil revenues. You have heard Asiwaju already talking about cassava, agbado, and all that. This man is already forward thinking. And some people are laughing. They say, why is he talking about cassava, agbado? That is about agriculture. That's a euphemism for agriculture he's talking about. So you want him to say it's pizza and what? What do you want to talk about? Something that is foreign to us.
Let's talk about the performance of P2B. MDG goals, he came first by United Nations assessment. By the assessment of the Bureau of Statistics, he had only one state, APGA. So he couldn't have had the power to influence anything coming from the federal. He had the lowest unemployment rate. He had the least poverty rate. He has the highest network of roads. He built almost 800 kilometers of roads. In terms of infrastructure, when he came in, he did not even have an office as a governor. He didn't even have a lodge. He built the lodge. He built the secretariat. He transformed Anambra State from being the worst to the best. In terms of security, people were murdered in the street of Anambra State, dropping people like grasses, including the chairman of MBA Onitsha and the wife. They were killed on the streets of Anambra State. Anambra was coming last in education. Teachers stayed at home for 2 years before he came in. So you can see what he inherited. You can see what he transformed Anambra to. First, academically, in education, they started coming first in WAEC. So Obi scored first in all indices of governance. Infrastructure, integrity, governance in Anambra State.
Above Lagos State.
Good. In security, the IG of police then confessed that Anambra State was the most secured state. Abubakar Mohammed. And kidnappers ran away, including the billionaire Evans. And he said it's the Obi's security structure. And there were notorious armed robbers then. One was Osisi Kanku, coming from Abia State to terrorize Anambra State. Obi met with the governors, and he was ambushed and taken out, and other terrible, notorious armed robbers. So, in security first, in uniting his people first, he united Anambra State that today, APGA's influence in Anambra is still growing. That even he himself, Obi, could not uproot APGA. Good governance.
Atiku has since left office from 2007. Ordinarily, the successive government that came after him, it was not a hidden thing that they were up against him because he contested against them. They had the opportunity of, even if they had the opportunity of indicting him. So even if they can't prosecute him, but there should be a criminal indictment. Criminal indictment is reflected in investigation and a finding. Up till now, as you and I are speaking, EFCC has never invited Atiku Abubakar on any of this wrongdoing. And recall, the privatization claim against him, Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna was heading the bureau at the time, Bureau of Public Enterprise. Maybe you may need to interview El-Rufai in the absence of an established indictment against him. Everything, Obasanjo sent Ribadu, who was then the EFCC chairman, all over the world to fetch evidence. He traveled around the world and came back. It was conjecture. Because if there was evidence, it would have been put into the laws of the land to try him. Meanwhile, other presidential candidates, for example, the candidate of APC, has been investigated by EFCC, he has been investigated by ICPC. So as you and I are speaking today, there is no indictment against Atiku.
Now, the Konkosia structure, I tell you this, is the strongest, most formidable structure owned by an individual politician in Nigeria today. People will see these red caps, and I keep just telling people, because you see the red cap people moving all around, so people have that impression that it's some bunch of almajiris or whatsoever you have. These caps you are seeing, go to Kano and do your research. They are PhD holders. All over you are seeing them until you go and sit down and look at the structure of Konkosia from top to bottom. You'll be shocked. These are all professionals, PhD holders, master's holders, lecturers in universities, workers in the private sector, self-employed people, and the structure is all over Nigeria, except you choose not to take note of. And Konkoso brought to bear his experience as a politician, as a grassroots politician, his experience in putting structure for a political party, and was able in the last 6 months, before even the emergence started to work, then the emergence of the NNPP, and was able to put structure in every ward, every local government, every state in this country. And that is why you see practically for all the offices that we are contesting, the NNPP has a structure. So the NNPP has two structures that the party is relying on. There's the Konkosia structure, and there's the main party structure that has taken its root. And Konkoso is able to do that because of his experience. I keep telling people, it's clear when you look at the experience of this man and the various work and responsibility he's held in this country, you know very clearly that he has all the latitude, he has all the opportunity, he has all the chance to be able to establish such a structure.
Now, we cannot hold conversations on politics without hearing from some non-politicians. So I spoke to members of the civil society, the Labour Union President Ayuba Waba, and human rights activist Mr. Femi Falano.
It was Connected Development that reported underage voting in a state in the northwest. It was our reporters on the ground who saw massive underage voting, took pictures and video. When we first reported it, I remember when we first reported it, we went to the Coalition Center, and because I'm the head of mission, I have access to I stood up and I spoke and I said, we have reports that is underage voting. They tried to debunk it, and then we had to go public with it. We posted it on social media, and channels actually picked it and amplified it, that here are evidence of underage voting. And I'm happy that with technology, today both digitally and manually, citizens can see the register and can report this. INEC has said, yes, we're cleaning up the register, but also, this also shows you that there are people, even within the system, trying to fight the progress that INEC have made. Because it is people who actually manually registered people into the digital platform. Are we saying that they don't know that those kids are below 18 years?
We've seen situations where people don't end up collecting their PVCs, or their PVCs are not ready before the elections. And I think the burden that this commission has is to ensure that every Nigerian who has gone out to register would have their PVCs produced and would receive their PVCs in due time in preparation for the election. Why isn't it called PVC distribution? Why is it called PVC collection? Because there is, an ideological argument that because it's a democracy, people need to show up. People need to express interest. So by coming to collect your PVC, you're actually exercising and expressing interest. And I say INEC is beyond a regulator, is a service provider. And the rules are in business that customer is king. So voters, can be conceived as, the customers of INEC. And if INEC can make the efforts to get people's PVCs across to them, even though it comes with a cost, I think we've got to do that to get people to do what? To come out and vote.
The 2023 race is not likely to be business as usual. There's nobody who is going to contest any serious position that will not be challenged.
At all levels?
Oh yes, oh yes. Young people are asking questions, particularly after the NSAS protest. Young people have shown more interest in the political development of Nigeria than ever before. And many of those young people are going to contest elections. And I can tell you the conversation we are having transcends 2023 elections. It is about the daily struggle of our people against illegal arrest and detention, against extrajudicial killings, against the dollarization of the economy, against poverty in the country. And so that is not a 2023 affair. Agenda alone.
This time around, we shouldn't just put our hands in the air and begin to watch, because politics is how those major issues and challenges can be addressed. It takes politics to address the issue of insecurity. It takes politics even to address the issue of minimum wage. It takes politics even to address the issue of our children that are out of school. And it will take actually political decision to fix our economy. So for us, it's broader than the issue of just occupying a political office. And Nigerians must begin to see politics from this prism, from this perspective. And that is why our polity is a bit different from what happens in other climes. In other climes, by now, it's issue-based. The candidate, you will be able to identify them by, one, what philosophy they stand on, family, and what is their vision, what can they deliver, what is their capacity. This should be the fulcrum of the discussion. Not about, no, you should go to point A, you should go to point B. That should not be the discussion, because the challenges are known. Even my grandmother in the village knows that the power crisis is real, because in her time, power is stable. Power is cheap. She can grind using the national grid. This is the reality. My grandmother knows there is the challenge of insecurity, particularly me from the Northeast. At a particular time, all of us left our traditional abode and we went somewhere and become internal displaced persons. So all of these are known. Those are the real challenges.
So what's politics without some ruffling of feathers? Expectedly, some politicians had a go at each other on the show. We had former Niger State Governor Babangida Aliyu stating why the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar did not choose the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike as his running mate. And then there was the APGA chairman Victor Ome insisting that Mr. Peter Obi cannot win an election unless he returns to APGA. Then there was the weighty accusation made by former APC national chairman Adams Oshomole against former Ekiti Governor Kayode Fayemi, alleging that the APC Governors Forum at the time had asked him to rig the governorship primary in Edo State in favor of Godwin Obaseki, who had fallen out with Mr. Oshomole at the time and was seeking re-election. Governor Fayemi openly denied this allegation, and the matter was rested by both men. Take a listen.
The question of cheating. If I make an agreement with you, and we agree this is what will happen, and I do not come forward to that, then you can refer to it as cheating. But you contested an election of how many people? Even if many people told you that you were going to win, even if by your arithmetic you confirm by your tabulation that you are going to win, and finally you do not win, I thought that the word cheat and other things will not come into play. And talking about the choice of vice presidency, you do not go around choosing people that will not complement you. As a governor, you choose people that will complement your office, people that are ready to take over from your office, people that are comfortable, that people will be comfortable with, because it's a ticket. Yes, the presence of one or the other could affect the whole ticket. So it's important that, given the circumstance that we are now, we needed somebody that is amenable, that is intelligent, that is experienced, that has exposed himself as somebody balanced.
Why do you think that Wike does not complement Atiku?
Because unfortunately, I don't know whether it's temperament or it's another thing. Sometimes when you speak so much, when you insult yourself or you insult your way to power, it does not normally happen. I can count many people who have been insulted, either through some people who say, well, he's saying his mind. No, there are certain times you don't say your mind.
I said it at that time, and I still repeat it. Unless Peter Obi, my brother, returns to Apuga, he will not achieve anything politically. I'm repeating it. Why? Isaiah 55:11. My word cannot go out and return void without fulfilling the purpose of which it was sent. The word had gone forth now. It can never return until it has fulfilled that purpose. He knows, because he took a vow that he will never leave Apuga. That any day he leaves Apuga, let his family die. Everybody in his family die. He said it now. But he still left Apuga, thinking that leaving Apuga will die. Has Apuga died? Everything about us is in the hands of God. Psalm 139:15. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, I had already known you. Even the number of days allotted to you have been recorded in my books before time began. Nothing will happen to you unless your time comes. But be very careful how you swear. The Bible says we should not swear, even with our heads, because we cannot produce a strand of hair on our heads. Why did he make such a vow? He left Abuja and joined PDP. He was vice president to Atiku. Now he's going for presidency. It will be a catastrophic exercise. It will not work.
President Muhammadu Buhari was always full of praises for me. Beginning from when he came to Edo to commission the hospital, commission major highways, commission a new university, which I dare say is better than any other university in Nigeria. And publicly he said, I will want you in Abuja. APC will need you in Abuja. With those words and declaration in an open forum in Benin, that was where my enemies woke up that no, this guy must be stopped. And initially they were saying, oh, maybe it's because of perceived affiliation with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so they want to remove me. They don't want me to be in office when conventions will be conducted. I am very proud of what I have accomplished. And that is why when they asked me to go, I said, I'm going with my honor. In fact, in one of the meetings I had with, I can tell you, Governor Fayemi, who told me bluntly to my face that, look, Chairman, what we are saying is, you can go and conduct election and fulfill all righteousness. But when we say this is the person who should emerge, just make sure that person emerge. And I told Governor Fayemi, I said, with all due respect to you, that will be your portion, not me. I can't be used as an instrument of fraud to invite people to buy forms and to convince that they are going for primaries when I have already decided, regardless of how the people will vote, this is the man that will prevail. You want to use me for such purpose? And I said, no. And I said, at worst, if you find the numbers to get rid of me, I would rather leave the job with my honor rather than sacrifice my honor to keep the job.
One recollection I had, and I had several meetings over the happenings in Edo State, for example, with Governor Adams Oshomole. But I wasn't even, at that time, the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum. I'd already left that office. I was in that office way back when Adams himself was a governor. I handed over to Governor Rochas Okorocha. And at the time he was referring to, the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum is still the current chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Governor Atiku Bagudu. However, I at various times joined delegations of governors to speak to him in his capacity as chairman over what was going on in Edo State. And I recall that the one issue that we discussed in relation to that was the process of disqualification of Governor Obaseki, because I felt he should still have been allowed to go into the race. And whatever then transpires in that primaries would be seen as the outcome of the party in the state, rather than a premature disqualification over what then turned out to be an incorrect view by the position of the courts later in that state. So there couldn't have been a basis, even if it was the position of governors naturally to defend a fellow governor. The basis of it would not have been, oh, Chairman, what we mean is, even if you go through the process, at the end of the day, it's who we want that should be taken on by you. I went through a primary in my state with 33 other candidates, aspirants for the governorship race in Ekiti. It was disrupted the first time, if you recall what happened in 2018, and another one held barely a week after, before I emerged as the candidate of the party. So I have never in my life been afraid of due process.
Now, from a former governor, let's go to two serving governors who will speak on the 2023 elections. Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State and Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State.
I want INEC to come up with projects and programs that will ensure Nigerians that their votes will matter, and that Nigerians will be given the opportunity to choose who they desire to lead them. And of course, for the parties, to minimize rancor, especially some of us, the major players, not to make it a do or die. All the stakeholders at the various levels, we should be interacting, even inter-party interactions, so that we can minimize friction and, of course, minimize violence. We should be peaceful in our approach, not too passionate and in our aspiration to lead. If we are leading to serve, we should know that service is not by force. Service is something that is done with humility. And as a civil servant, I always believe that the electorate, the people, are supreme. We should always approach issues and not persons or personalities. We should not be portraying ourselves as criminals, as crooks, or running at each other, calling ourselves names, as to cause perception problem in the electorate and create so much ambivalence and delusion and, of course, disillusionment in the system. Because what we have been doing over the years as political players, going to EFCC, going to the party rallies and calling ourselves all sorts of things, is creating a consciousness in the electorate. It's creating doubts and suspicion and mistrust. And this country is so diverse, as you said. We should be able to harness that diversity.
You know, there are four political parties that are strong. You know, definitely APC, you know, because we are the ruling party, the PDP, you know, because they have an excellent candidate also in the PDP. Peter Obi, a one-time governor, is also a good person. So Labour Party is there, and of course Concourse's party. You know, so these are the ones that we see or we read in the newspapers, you know, at the at that level. So I think it's going to be like that. But most likely, if you look at all these candidates, with all sense of humility, the two candidates actually are at the top.
Which two?
Asuwaju and Atiku Abubakar.
You're writing of Peter Obi and Kwankwaso?
I'm not writing them off, but they will find it very difficult to break through because going in, they will do very well. I have no doubt in certain regions, but to have the national spread, is going to be very difficult because it's people who move political parties. It's not just the name or the individual at the top. With due respect, look at what the two other parties have. If they had come in together, similar to what ACN, NAPP, and the rest of that did to form APC, if they have done that, they probably will have more national spread.
So we're less than 2 months to the elections, and the conversation of a possible coalition between the two other new horses, Labour Party and the New Nigeria People's Party, are not loud enough, apparently. And this has given specifically the APC the confidence of winning the 2023 presidential election. But beyond the presidential election, attention must also be paid to the governorship elections. So let's turn to the chats with some governorship aspirants and candidates.
Just like I know, as we're talking, we have 13.4 million out-of-school children in this country. And out of them, about 75% are in northern Nigeria. So we are concerned about that when it comes to our own state. And we know the reason, because our basic education is really very poor. And we need to correct that. The only way to do that is to put politics aside and do what is right for history and posterity. And RFI did that. So when he retrains the workers, I was hearing some opposition saying, he's going to lose the election because he did it just before election. But sometimes as a leader, you have to consider your personal interests and the overall interest of the people that elected you. These children we're talking about, the only way we can empower the children of the poor people for them to compete with the children of the rich people is to give them quality education. Education is a leveler. And the only way to do that is to give them quality education. So RFI realized that, look, he went through public school also. Today, he was a minister. Now he's a governor. Why? Because at that time, the public school was very, very sound.
As it concerns the governorship position, I've had the opportunity to understudy governance in the state right from 1999, and by contributing to the success of those three administrations, that is the last two and the present one. And so I know their success stories, I know their challenges. So I want to go and build on the success stories, and I want to go and fill in those gaps that I've seen in the challenges, leveraging on the lessons I have learned in saving those administrations, and then the lessons I have learned too in my engagement in the political space nationally, and then leveraging on the qualification and exposure I've had internationally in some institutions under personal development. I believe that I have been sufficiently schooled in the art of leadership, and I believe again that I have lived with the people. I know their challenges. I know that by the grace of God, I have the tools to be able to prefer solutions to those challenges.
But beyond your constituency, because you've talked about how well you know your constituency. This is an entire state now.
I mean,
what do you know about Akwa Ibom State, specifically with regards to the resources, untapped resources of Akwa Ibom State that could possibly increase the revenue generation of the state?
Okay, what do I know about the state? First, food supply globally is strengthened. And you agree with me, especially with the challenges that we are faced with between Ukraine and Russia. And you know that globally, if we don't scale up on agriculture, we are going to be facing food crisis. And so that is something we can tap into. You see, every challenges, every crisis presents an opportunity for business. And so God has blessed us with arable land. God has blessed us with good climatic condition, and God has blessed us with an industrious population.
In a state where it's a civil service state, first your attention should be meant particularly in agriculture, and then rural development.
the healthcare sector you talked about. These are things that you must address very squarely. And people will know that, look, there's governance. The man in the village will have a feel of what government is all about. But if you just concentrate your development in the city, ignoring the challenges in the villages, then I don't think you are running a government. We have some, whether you like it or not, if you become governor, the capital city you must touch it. There's no doubt about that. But more attention should be made to the people, rural areas. As I talk to you as a member of House of Representatives, this common borehole, this manual borehole, I'm not even talking about the big ones, the manual ones. People are still queuing up, giving us the names of villages just to bring up potable water for them to drink. The challenge we are faced with. So as a governor, you should know that this is a big challenge. Then you have people who just ordinary, during antenatal, during pregnant women, will just die, they cannot afford small health care. In the time of Murtala Mayere in Yako, there was free medical care for pregnant women and children between the ages of 1 and 5.
At the end of the day, environmental issues are also tied to economic issues. If you look at our rivers and the level of pollution in the waters, in the areas where people have very little economic sustaining ability, you won't recognize the place if you come back in 10 years where people now have proper toilets and proper dustbins and money to be able to take care of their garbage and all that. So I believe that the environment is a major challenge, but you see that challenge is always tied to poverty in some way. And when we create an economic environment that builds prosperity all around, I believe that one of the first things we will notice will be naturally a better and a cleaner environment.
Sadly, not all of them got their tickets. But as we wind down on our 2022 recap, let's turn to other notable Nigerians for their thoughts on the 2023 general elections.
We will all, as citizens of this country, manage ourselves well in terms of avoidance of violence, and violence, not just physical violence, even verbal violence. We should approach electioneering with civility, in language, in comportment, and everything. And we should take it that it's not a do or die situation, that it's just about the ability to convince the other person as to why that other person should vote for the candidate of my party.
What I have seen is not encouraging for me. That is the truth of the matter. I cannot go against my conscience. They may say it is beyond their control. I don't know how, but look at it. I thought I was going to retire and go straight to the village. The village I left, where I have 2-bedroom flats built, I cannot go there again. Wow. Yes, because of insecurity. Close to my house, at the junction, kidnapping. Killing that they will attribute to whom they don't know. At the point they say, look, it's farmers, headers, all manner of things. You cannot, as I keep, even shortly before I left, there is no week. I lost a cousin who was kidnapped. The ransom they asked before, nothing, the man just disappeared since 2018. Why am I saying so? Because cutting across the two administrations, like I said in my advisory to Nigerians, I was opportune to be a researcher, a research fellow. I was opportune to teach, let me use the language that people understand, to direct senior participants at National Defense College, wrote projects. I have seen reports. I have participated in various meetings, symposiums, seminars. All the recommendations that came out are what? Bad leadership, corruption on these two parties, these two containers.
Do the voters have enough information
about who is who in terms of those who are looking for their votes to be president. The voters must have information. And this information is really lucky, generally lucky. What we have in most cases today, reading what one sees in the social media, is fake information and disinformation as misinformation coming from different camps, targeted at opposing camps. And that itself does not help voters, new or old, to really make up their minds objectively that they are getting the correct information in terms of who is that and who is not that. And this is the situation we have on ground. So if there is an advice to give, is that people should be discernible in terms of what they read as news, whether it's fake or false, or the information is objective, or, you know, directed to certain particular interests, which you can easily understand why, and so on.
So we just did a ward meeting the other day, and a lady stood up and said, we know that every election, politicians are going to come and give us money. How long does that money last you? How much can a politician really afford to give? Maybe rice, maybe Indomie, maybe 5,000, maybe 10,000, maybe 20,000, maybe even give you 50,000 naira. Does that 50,000 naira last you 4 years? Because if it does, then no problem. But it doesn't, does it? Typically what they give you, maybe it lasts a few days, a week, a month, 2 months. And you mortgage the rest of your 4 years. You sell it for whatever they give you the night before elections. And so my message to them was simple. I say, if somebody comes to give you money, take it. People are suffering, they are hungry. Take the money. I wouldn't be the one to tell you don't collect. Collect the money, it's your money anyway. They stole it from the state. So take it. Take it, but when you get to the ballot box, do the right thing. Don't sell 4 years away for what may only last you a week or two. And that's what they're telling themselves. I saw a video in Ghana where politicians came with rice during election time. The people threw the rice back at them. Because even the grassroots, even in the rural areas, even they understand what's going on. This is 2022, 2023. Times have changed, man. Your phone, there's the reason it's called a smart device. People are getting smart. People are really starting to see what's happening. I mean, we talked about Lekki Food Bank in this interview. During the NSAS protest, didn't we see warehouses across the nation with food that hungry people could have eaten and politicians had kept there because they were waiting to use it for elections? Come on. So I think even the people are, they're more enlightened now.
Okay.
They understand what's at stake.
We go again this year, 2023. Thank you very much for following Political Paradigm and indeed Channels Television. If you'd like to see more, go to our YouTube page and our website, channelstv.com. From the Political Paradigm crew, Happy New Year. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.